Hey there, I'm Brandon Howe, and welcome back to my Making a Game series. In the last episode, we improved our player model. Woo. So we got a nice alien ship thing here that could be a bit nature-y, perhaps, like vines and rock and water, something like that. And we have some animation to it. So we got these things spinning around, this center part randomly, this part uniformly, and the front piece we actually animated that so it kind of wobbles back and forth. Alright, that's cool. So, alright, yeah. So now, in this episode, we're going to be making a pause screen. We're going to take a slight break from improving our models and go back to adding more functionality. So we're going to allow the player to pause the game. And we'll have a little screen here that has buttons on it. Probably we'll just make a resume button and a back to level select for now. That won't do anything just yet because we don't have a level select to go back to. But it'll be a temporary placeholder for now. So, anyways, let's do that. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually make our pause screen here. So, up here, I'm going to go, create UI and, where is it? Panel. This is going to be our pause screen. So, I'm going to call this pause screen. And I'm going to sort of move everything in, let's say, by 50 on all sides. Yeah, good. I'm gonna set this to complete black and then turn up this. We can have a bit of transparency. I guess that looks good. Actually, I might move this in a bit more, like this. Whoa, and this. So it doesn't really need to be so wide. Let's try 150 and 150. Something like that. When we make the actual buttons, we can rearrange how it looks. But now I'm gonna, while also selecting this, so the object that we make is a child object of it, gonna go UI, and we're gonna make text. Then this is just gonna say paused, or well, paused text up there is the name of it, and the actual text is gonna say paused. And then we're gonna set up, we can make it, bold, and we can eventually make our own font later, although that would be something that you'd do in other programs. Well, download a font. I mean, you can make a font, I guess, but that would be potentially a difficult process. I've never made a font before, so I don't really know. Well, you'd have to, like, draw a version of every single letter of the alphabet, I think, and then you plug it into a program, and then it does all that. But that's not what we're going to be doing here. Anyway, so I'm going to anchor this to the top and then move it down a bit and then increase the size a bunch, except I'm going to have to increase this here so that we can actually fit it in. Cool, except that's really big. So let's put that down. 26. That seems good enough for me. 50 looks good. Actually, at that point, I might decrease this height back down to 50. And then this -5, -10. Good enough for me. Alright, so we got that now. Now we're going to want to make our buttons. So UI button Shazam. So we'll move that up there, and this will be our resume button. So I'll name it as such, resume button. And then the text part of the button, I'm going to change it to say resume. Resume. All right, and then we'll color this completely black, and then I guess we'll make the actual button. We can make it, not there, up here. We can make it a blue, I guess. And then we'll make it bigger. 50, 200. Cool, except we're going to do that. I want to make the text bigger as well. Not that big, but maybe 16, 18, 16, I guess. That's fine. Cool, so that works good for now for placeholder. Eventually we can make actual graphics for all our buttons and stuff. So now we're going to want to actually add some programming functionality in here. And as such, that means we're making a new script. So we're going to create a C# script. I'm going to call this Pause Manager because it's going to manage everything that has to do with pausing, which isn't going to be that much. But here we go. All right. So now in this Pause Manager, first thing we're going to do is at the top, because we're going to be dealing with buttons and panels and text and all that. Well, actually, we're going to be dealing with only buttons, but still, we're going to want to add Unity Engine using Unity Engine.ui. That'll allow us to access, to do stuff with our buttons and whatnot. Actually, now that I think about it, we might not end up needing that at all, but oh well, we'll see in a minute. So I'm going to add a public. We're going to want to get a reference to our pause screen, public game object, pause screen, and then cool. Then we're going to want to go to, in our start function, we don't want the pause screen to exist right off the bat, so we're going to go pause screen.setActive false, and then we're going to want to go to our update function and then go. All right, so we're going to want to test if the player hits, we'll make the button escape. So if they hit escape, then pause the game. So if input dot get key down, and this will be key code dot escape, then we're going to want a Boolean, I think, to keep track of whether the game is paused or not at any given time. So private a bool, and that is going to be is paused, and then that'll start off equaling false. So if they press escape, then I'm going to go in the if function, then go if is paused, because we'll also make it if the game is paused and they hit escape again, then it'll become unpaused as well. So if is paused, then we're gonna make a resume function in a second, but then we're going to, so if is paused is true, then we're going to resume the game. So this is going to be a function we're going to write in a second, and then otherwise, then we're going to want to pause the game, so we're going to make a pause function. Not that. Pause. Yeah, it'd probably be better if I made the functions first, so it's not trying to autocorrect, but that's fine. So this is going to be our basic functionality. So that means we're going to have to write two functions now for resuming and pausing. So let's do that. So first we'll start with pausing, since that's the main thing that we want to do. So void pause. That's not what I want at all. Get rid of all this it tried to create. All right. Void pause. Bring all this. Actually, okay, on the next line, sure. So void pause. In this, we are going to, so we have our pause screen. We're going to want to set it to, pause screen dot set active true, and then we're going to want to set our this is pause variable to true as well, so that we know that it's paused. Is paused equals true, and then we're going to want to make sure everything actually freezes, and how we're going to go about that is just going time dot time scale equals 0. That'll essentially freeze things. Now, however, it doesn't freeze everything. There is still some code that does run even when things are frozen. So like update functions and start functions, those all still run. Mainly physics stuff doesn't run. Or like on collisions, on triggers, those kinds of things. However, in places where we do have things that are moving without physics, like in our rotator script, I preemptively went and multiplied it by time.delta time, and that'll essentially fix our time problem. So when we set time.time scale to 0, this will also be 0, ergo it won't turn, which is what we want. So everything that is moving, even when we don't want it to, when things are frozen, using that time.delta time will help us solve that. Yeah. All right, so now time.time scale equals 0, and then we're going to want to do basically the opposite for having a resume screen, or resume button. So resume, we're going to do the opposite, so I'm just going to copy all this and then change stuff around. So setting the pause screen to false, setting the time scale to 1, and setting is pause to false. All right. As well, this resume function is also something that we're going to want to be able to call from a button. So we're going to have to actually make this a public function in order to be able to do that. We won't need to call pause from a button. So now let's go back to Unity. We're not completely done with that yet. We're going to want to make temporary functionality for our go back to level select button. But we'll do that momentarily. So now over with our... so now we're going to want to actually add that script to the scene. And I'm actually going to create a new empty game object to do that. Actually, I'm going to make two. I'm going to make one called managers, because eventually we're going to have more managers in our scene. We're going to have a game manager, probably maybe like a sound manager, an enemy manager maybe as well if we want to do enemy random spawning stuff. Or something that keeps track of how many enemies are in the scene, stuff like that. But then we're also going to have our pause manager as well. Basically, there's like the higher up scripts that do with just keeping order in our game, keeping track of lots of things. All right. And then actually eventually also if we do saving, then some kind of save manager thing as well. But anyway, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So now our pause manager game object with our pause manager script. We're going to want to then add our pause screen over to here. And then now our resume button, we're going to want to go down here to this on click and hit this plus sign here. And then basically this will add a function that gets called when the button is clicked, which we're going to want to call that resume function. So then we're going to drag our pause manager game object in there and then selecting a function from pause manager resume. And then if the function had some kind of input variables here, then you'd be able to type those in this spot here. You can also add multiple on-click things to have multiple things happen, but we don't need to do that for this instance. So let's give this a test. So as well, when we go into the game, the pause menu should go away. Then we hit escape. Now it exists. And everything stopped. And then we hit resume. And bam, everything comes back again. And everything seems to be freezing successfully. So that's good. That's exactly what we want. All right. Cool. So, and as well, if you just hit escape over and over, that also helps. As well, though, I'm going to do some slight tweaking. So automatically when you make a button in Unity like this, it has a little bit of, when you hover over it, it gets like slightly darker. When you hold it down, it gets slightly darker as well, and stuff like that. I just want to go and sort of increase how dark those get. So there's different color fields down here. So the normal color, highlighted color, pressed color, and disabled color. Disabled would be if you make the button locked so you can't actually click it. So highlight color, I guess I'll make this like 80, I guess, and then this I'll make 50, just to have a bit of extremes. That is not the value that I meant to... that's probably fine. Let's just see. Good, that's good, I think. Yeah, and then if it's disabled, it's see-through. Alright, so now we're going to want to duplicate this to make our quit button. I'll go -50. Actually, I'll go a little bit lower. We can also have a third button. We may have like an options menu as well, but with the way this game is right now, there's not really many options that we would need. I suppose you could make a huge input rerouting system, but I'm not going to bother with that for now. So I'm going to change the name of this to quit, and then I'm also going to make this a hazardous red. How dare you want to leave the game? Is it not fun enough for you? Alright, so resume, quit, going in here, and then we're going to want to make a new function for quitting. Well, not quitting, but going back to the level select. Actually, yeah, I guess it's different, isn't it? So, because this won't actually exit the game, it'll just go back to the level select. From the level select, there'll be something to exit the game, I guess. Select. I'll still make it red, because why not? So public void. I'm gonna call this go to scene, being generic like that, because then we might be able to reuse this with other buttons that we make. So this is just going to go to a scene, and then as input, just so I guess I can show it off, it'll take a string that is the name of the scene to go to. So a string called scene. So then in order to do going between scene stuff, we're going to need to, at the top, I guess we also didn't need this UI thing at all, but going to change it to Unity using Unity Engine.scene management instead, because that'll be how we go between scenes and stuff. So now we're going to go scene manager.load scene scene, with that being this string there. So now it should load then the scene that we want to go to. Cool. All right, so then waiting for that to load. So now, actually I'll also rename this over in here just so it's the same. Level select button, and then changing this from calling the resume function to calling levels or go to scene over here, and then we'll call this level select. And that's a scene that doesn't exist yet. In fact, we may as well, I guess, make it exist. So we've been working in this level template scene all this time. I'm gonna make a new scene. Actually, over here, file, new scene, and then I'll just hit save right away. And then we're gonna save this in the scenes folder, and I'm just gonna call it level select. Select. Cool. So now that exists, and I guess I'm just gonna. I might remake the scene from scratch when we actually do our level select, but I'll just kind of do this so it's kind of like the same enough. Yeah, so that, actually, and then just so we know that it's working 100%, I'll create UI text object just called level select. And then make it super big and white. And then I'll do increase these so we can actually see it properly. How big did I make it? All right. All right, that works. And give it a nice fancy tilt. This way. So now we have that. As well, we're going to want to go up to File, Build Settings, and in order to be able to actually transition to our level select scene, we're going to want to drag this in here. So we have our level template and our level select. As well, the order of this doesn't matter too much, but the only place where it does matter is the very first scene at the top is the scene that'll get loaded when you actually go to open your game. So that'll be, you'll want that to be like your main menu or whatever. We'll deal with that when we actually make our main menu. So now going into this again, waiting a second. So when we pause, we have our resume button and our level select. Hitting that, boom, it goes to our level select like we want it to. All right, so cool, we have a pause screen. Eventually we can also make more buttons, like hit options menu, or we can make a separate button that goes to the level select and the main menu. We'll decide more on that when we actually make our level select and main menu, what would be better for the functionality that we want. I suppose also you could like move this score, so instead of being in the top corner, it's actually shown in the pause menu. But in this case, I don't think we really need to do that. It should be fine as is. In fact, as well, I'm also going to just take this as an opportunity to go to the pause screen, and I think I'm also going to extend this more just so it's about the same size as the button, just because it's so thin. 250 and 250 perhaps. That might be too small. Well, we can just go with that. What about changing these to 100 and 100? That is very small. We can just stick with this. That's fine. I guess also I'll make the pause text. We can make these text slightly more interesting. I can make this a yellow. Oh, actually, I kind of like that, I guess. It works good on the dark blue background. And then over on our pause screen, our pause text, we'll make it the same kind of yellow. That's not yellow. This is yellow. That works, I guess. Actually, just for curiosity's sake, I just want to see what these look like if I also make it the same kind of yellow color. Nope, they do not look good. Well, what about white? We can go with white. And then I might actually bold these as well. Yes. And then I might make them bigger. Yeah, I'll make those bigger, and then I'll also make this bigger just to compensate. I guess those work. We might change these around later, but for now it's all fine. Our functionality works, and that was the point of doing this, I guess. So, all right, so we got this. This exists. We can pause the game now. That's cool. Yeah, and it's really shaping up, so that's nice as well. Oh, I'm also going to go and make our pause screen a prefab, and I'm going to do the same with the score text as well, just because things that we will be using in other scenes. as well. Have I applied this? Yeah, I'll go to apply the player prefab just so things are the same. That won't really matter too much until we start actually going into other scenes. As well, this manager, actually I'm going to make it plural for when we have more managers. I'm going to make this a prefab as well. So when we have all of our different managers, then those will be prefabs too. All right, so that's some small organization stuff there. But I think, finally I'm also going to disable the pause screen just so it starts being off, just so we can see our game like we want it to. Yeah. Alright, so that'll do it for this episode. In the next episode, we will go and improve all of our enemy models. Now, I'm thinking what we might do, just experimenting with ideas. So we're going to want these to look alien-y too, maybe a different type of alien-y from our player ship. We could make these more mechanically robot-y, more biological alien looking, or maybe a combination. But we'll figure that out when we get there. We're going to need 3, we might have them look the same, or 3 completely different. We'll figure that out when we get there. Alright, but yeah, so that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a good day! Woo!